All right, let's get right into this. We're going to unpack a piece of evidence from the Jeffrey Epstein case that isn't a flight log or some dry legal document. No, it's a birthday card. But believe me, this is no ordinary birthday card. We're talking about a 250-page scrapbook, and it is hands down one of the strangest and most disturbing things to come out of this entire saga.
And that quote really just nails it. This book was supposedly put together to celebrate Epstein's 50th birthday way back in 2003. But when you actually flip through its pages, it feels less like a party and more like you're examining clues at a crime scene. It's just packed with these cryptic messages, bizarre photos, and inside jokes that feel sinister. So what's really going on here? The stakes are, and I'm not exaggerating, unbelievably high.
That's $10 billion, with a B. That's the amount of money Donald Trump threatened to sue for over the publication of just one single page from this book. I mean, think about that. Fights over $10 billion are usually between giant corporations or countries, not over some weird birthday wish you may or may not have sent a friend. That alone tells you just how explosive the stuff in this book really is.
So let's start right there, with that single billion-dollar page. It's without a doubt the most high-profile and, frankly, bizarre entry in the whole collection, and it's the one that kicked off a massive political firestorm. The entry itself is just deeply strange. It's this short, cryptic little dialogue between a Donald and a Jeffrey about knowing some secret to life, and it's all typed inside a drawing of a headless, armless female torso. The signature, Donald J. Trump, is placed in a way, well, it's positioned to insinuate that it's the silhouette's pubic hair. It is just profoundly weird. And this was Trump's reaction. A completely furious denial on Truth Social, right? He claimed the whole letter was fake, that those weren't his words, and that he doesn't draw. And that threat of a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal, that immediately turned this bizarre little birthday note into a massive international controversy.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have been staring at an absolute flood of source material, legal filings, email dumps, and some incredible, bizarre artifacts.
And a mountain of it, all stemming from the world of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
And the sheer scale of the interest trying to control this narrative, I think you can see it just from the opening story.
The lawsuit threat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A former U.S. president threatening a potential $10 billion lawsuit against a major newspaper.
All over a single drawing, one page in a scrapbook.
It immediately sets the stakes, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. When a piece of physical evidence from, 2 decades ago?
Yeah.
When that triggers a financial and legal threat of that magnitude, this isn't just a regular defamation case.
Right.
This is the nuclear option being deployed against major media just for revealing an artifact that, speaks to the power structure Epstein had access to.
Exactly. And our mission today is really to synthesize this avalanche of data into clear, usable insights for you. We are focusing on the most recent document releases, including a remarkable centerpiece, a 250-page birthday book compiled for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday.
And that was back in 2003.
Right, 2003.
That date is so important. It's vital context. This book wasn't a retrospective, looking back. It was compiled by Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein right in the middle of the period when many of the most serious trafficking crimes were allegedly happening.
They were actively asking for this stuff.
They were soliciting it. Letters, photos, stories from people they called their good friends.
And the moment you look at the book, it fundamentally shifts. It stops being a tribute and becomes something far more sinister.
Mm-hmm.
It feels less like an ode to a pal turning 50 and much, much more like an evidence file.
Yes, a celebratory trophy detailing their network and, in a lot of cases, their shared secrets. The hubris required to create and keep something like that it's deeply unsettling.
It's the ultimate display of untouchability.
Totally. They were celebrating their connections, their alleged illicit lifestyle, because they really believed they would never face any consequences.
And that leads directly to why these documents are surfacing now.
Right. It's the victims. They've been incredibly brave, consistently pushing for transparency.
We've seen the petitions, right? The Change.org petition specifically asking for the full file releases.
Exactly. And they know the common political resistance, the excuse, is often framed as protecting the victims or avoiding re-traumatization.
But they've rejected that completely.
They've rejected that political framing entirely. They are demanding transparency. They're citing that exact argument and saying directly to people in power, don't be using us as an excuse.
Wow.
After suffering through the failures of the legal system over and over, their stance is basically that the full picture, the complete truth, it has to come out, no matter how much discomfort it causes for the powerful people named in those pages.
So let's dive into this bizarre artifact, the birthday book. Because the design alone, it tells a story of depravity and, this kind of coded acknowledgement.
It's hard to overstate how strange this document is.
Starting with its structure.
The structure is chilling. I mean, we're talking about a scrapbook with chapter titles like children, girlfriends, and scientists.
Scientists.
They weren't hiding what their life revolved around. They were categorizing it, celebrating it. The overall feeling you get from the source material is one of these dark inside jokes and sinister coded language.
It suggests a pervasive understanding of Epstein's activities among his inner circle.
Absolutely. It's essentially a criminal yearbook where the notes are all written in this shared, twisted language.
Okay, so let's start with the most explosive contribution. The one that triggered that massive $10 billion lawsuit threat. The piece attributed to Donald Trump.
Right, and we need to detail this drawing clearly for you. It's a silhouette of what is, it's unambiguously meant to be a woman's upper body.
It's very crude.
Very. It has a high sort of vase-like neck, but it's missing the head and the arms. And below the shoulders, you have these two distinct U-shaped cups that suggest breasts forming the body shape.
It's incredibly objectifying.
And inside this crude silhouette is typed text, presented almost like a script.
The text opens with voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything.
Right. It sets the tone immediately. This is a dialogue about secrets, about hidden power. Then you get the exchange between Donald and Jeffrey.
And the dialogue is so cryptic and self-important.
Lines like, Donald, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is, Jeffrey, nor will I, since I also know what it is.
It's so narcissistic. And then the lines on aging and friendship.
Donald! Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that, Jeffrey?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you.
It all culminates in, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Signed, Donald J. Trump.
But here is where the artistic interpretation becomes, the key piece of evidence. Trump's signature, Donald J. Trump, is placed at the bottom of that silhouette in a way that appears deliberately drawn to look like pubic hair on the figure.
It's unmistakable in its implication.
And that is the source of the monumental fallout. When the Wall Street Journal printed this, Trump immediately took to Truth Social, denying it was real and threatening to sue his ass off.
His defense was pretty clear.
These are not my words, not the way I talk, and also I don't draw pictures.
It's an aggressive denial, just trying to say this physically strange and highly implicating piece of evidence is a complete fabrication.
But that speed and severity of the denial itself, it speaks volumes. Why keep this item for decades if it wasn't valuable or real?
Exactly. But the book doesn't just contain these political contributions. It really showcases this deep sense of privilege and self-importance that surrounded Epstein.
Oh, absolutely. The documents show that Epstein's friends celebrated him as a person who was above the law.
There was that astrologer's analysis.
Yes. One friend actually included an analysis from their house astrologer, and it reads like a profile of someone destined for secrecy and power.
What did it say?
It described Epstein as fiercely intelligent, preferring utter secrecy, being emotionally complicated, and having this remarkable ability to beat the current masters at their own game.
That's not just birthday flattery.
No, it's a profound, open acknowledgement of his dark, influential power.
It suggests the entire circle believed he operated on a different plane. And the anecdotes from childhood friends, like the one from Johnny Boy Kifka, they establish this pattern of sleaze and deception going way back.
Way back. One friend recounts a deeply crude anecdote from their youth detailing some sexual activity that was interrupted by a maid, and it really set a pattern of disregard and, the involvement of young women.
He also recounts Epstein giving him penicillin, a slang term for penicillin to prevent STDs.
And concocting this elaborate cover story about the friend being raised on a boat in Brazil just to explain away his messy behavior.
These stories aren't just gross. They demonstrate a lifetime of collaborative deception and the early management of consequences around illicit sexual encounters.
But the most chilling entry, the one that connects their shared history to outright criminality, is the rob and kill story.
That photo is profoundly unsettling.
Yeah. Epstein wearing what looks like a stocking over his head, holding what seems to be a gun next to a buddy in a ski mask.
And the text with it.
The accompanying text describes a scheme they hatched called rob and kill. And critically, the text explicitly notes that the first victim was redacted.
Redacted.
Right, presumably because of ongoing investigations or victim privacy. The contributor then praises Mr. E for continuing on after the original scheme was abandoned and becoming an industry leader in the kill and get rich quick scheme.
That language it's a clear signpost.
Yeah.
The rob and kill reference establishes a foundation of real criminal intent, real violence, which then evolves into the industry leader comment.
Which is widely interpreted as coded language for his later trafficking operation.
So it paints a picture of a shared, escalating criminal history, not just a friendly association.
And this hubris, it extends into the explicit imagery included in the book.
Right, there's that photo of him floating in a darkly lit bathtub.
The description in the source material is unforgettable, marinating like an overcooked shrimp.
In barely bubbly, lukewarm water. And there's another photo of him on a hotel bed, using a landline, wearing nothing but a tiny Speedo.
Even the photographs celebrating, traditional moments twist into this weird cynicism. At a friend's wedding, there's a photo of a pissed-off Epstein.
And the text attributes his mood to the unforgivable, immortal sin of getting married.
It suggests his utter contempt for traditional committed relationships.
And that contempt is foundational to the next section. The content related to women and children, the chapter titled Girlfriends, starts with its own definition.
Jizz, a highly excited and distracted state of mind.
That just sets a tone of objectification right off the bat. But one story in the book provides this direct, terrifying parallel to Virginia Giuffre's accounts.
A female contributor recalls Ghislaine Maxwell at a Palm Beach horse show, proactively seeking a collection of breast photos for Epstein.
And then what happened?
The contributor then recounts visiting Epstein months later. He asked her to take her top off, confirming the precise location of a beauty mark on her right breast. He told her, "Memory served you correctly. The beauty mark was on the right breast."
That exchange confirms his meticulous predatory record-keeping.
And it directly parallels Giuffre's chilling testimony that Maxwell took nude photos of her and other girls for Epstein's so-called trophy collection.
Giuffre described a hidden room in the Palm Beach estate where framed pictures, clearly CSAM, were displayed, alongside boxes of more photos.
Right. And this section of the birthday book strongly suggests that this trophy collection was well known among his associates, and they even actively contributed to it.
And finally, the chapter titled Children. This includes letters and drawings, likely from the children of ex-girlfriends, some of whom are now billionaires, referring to him by this seemingly innocuous title, Uncle F.
But the drawings themselves are so heavy with suggestion. There's one drawing of 5 crying figures captioned, "Here comes the bride, all dressed in white. Where is the groom? He's in the ladies' room."
It's an unnerving piece of artwork. It speaks to a profound confusion, maybe even distress, in the child's environment.
And the other cryptic piano drawing is perhaps even more telling about the location and context.
Describe it for us.
It shows an adult playing the piano, surrounded by this opulent decor, green curtains, rows of plush pink chairs suggesting a private performance space. But critically, there is a small child sleeping on the floor at the piano's feet.
And the caption.
The caption asks the adult recipient, "Does it bring you back memories?"
The specific detail of the child's position, the private venue, and that cryptic memory reference, it just transforms this from an innocent drawing into a veiled reference to a shared illicit experience.
Yeah. Ultimately, the birthday book isn't just evidence of association, it's an artifact of shared criminal confidence. They kept it because they were proud of their network and totally confident the system would never touch them.
Okay, so moving from the physical evidence to the political network. The documentation reveals this incredible ease with which Epstein accessed the absolute apex of global power.
A prime example is the birthday card from a former assistant.
That card is a stunning inventory of high-level access, all achieved in just a single year.
She lists Prince Andrew, President Clinton, Donald Trump, Kevin Spacey, and Michael Jackson.
Alongside top scientists and lawyers, she also talks about traveling on the Concorde and even sitting on the Queen's throne. It really shows Epstein as the ultimate connector.
But you have to integrate the cost of that access. The card concludes with a picture of Epstein and the assistant walking, where his hand is described as fully inside of her jeans on her butt.
Followed by a simple thank you.
Exactly. It instantly illustrates the transactional nature of his world. unparalleled access and influence came at the price of explicit violation and servitude.
What's fascinating from a political perspective, especially in the U.S., is the rare moment of unity this scandal has created.
It's strange, isn't it?
High-profile figures from both the left, like Bill Clinton, and the right, like Donald Trump, are linked. This bipartisan entanglement means that the demand for the full file release has been sustained across the political spectrum.
Because everyone suspects their opponents are hiding something.
Right, and that paranoia feeds directly into one of the wildest revelations from the recently released email dumps. The Throatus conspiracy theory.
It emerged in an exchange between Jeffrey and his brother, Mark Epstein, in 2018.
That exchange confirms the intimacy and currency of political information in Epstein's world. Mark emails Jeffrey, asks about his health, and then, what is your boy Donald up to now?
And Jeffrey responds, confirming his connections. All good. Bannon with me.
So Steve Bannon, a key Trump operative, was closely collaborating with Epstein right up until the year before his death.
Yes. And Mark's reply is where it gets truly shocking. He writes back with this conspiratorial joke. Ask him, Bannon, if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba.
And Bubba is widely understood to be Bill Clinton.
Right, given his nickname. Mark Epstein later tried to deny this, feebly suggesting it might have been Ghislaine Maxwell's horse.
A horse, right.
But the context is clear. The fact that this specific conspiracy theory that Putin had compromising photos of Trump, possibly involving Clinton, was being casually joked about or seriously considered in the inner circle of the Epsteins and a senior Trump strategist. It speaks volumes.
Shows that the rumors of potential blackmail material weren't just on internet forums. They were circulating within the highest echelons of power brokers.
And this connects directly back to that nasty, highly personal 2016 campaign rhetoric where the idea of Trump having leverage over the Clintons, or vice versa, was just everywhere.
Okay, let's move to Bill Clinton's specific connections. We saw his birthday card wishing Epstein childlike curiosity and the solace of friends.
A perfectly innocuous message until you overlay it with everything we now know about Epstein's life.
Trump himself has been the primary source of a lot of unverified claims against Clinton, stating that Clinton went to the island 28 times.
Which Clinton denies. He denies ever setting foot on Epstein's private island. The most critical testimony we have on this comes from Virginia Giuffre.
And she confirms she was never with Clinton on the private plane or the island.
Right, but she did attend one dinner with him. However, her testimony contains an explosive allegation of political interference.
What's the allegation?
She claimed that Clinton specifically threatened Vanity Fair magazine, instructing them not to write sex trafficking articles about Epstein.
Wow. So if that's true, it means Clinton was actively using his political leverage, his standing as a former president, not just to maintain distance, but to protect Epstein's reputation.
And to silence journalists who are trying to expose the trafficking operation.
That's a level of complicity that goes way beyond just taking a few flights on a plane.
And then there's the infamous art connection. The painting of Bill Clinton wearing heels and a blue dress, sitting casually in the Oval Office.
Epstein's email about this painting is just a pure psychological power play. He instructed someone, an unidentified person, to hang the Clinton painting in place of the artwork so that people walking by can smile.
It's an act of brazen, dark humor that implies intimacy and possibly leverage over a former president, something only a truly protected individual would even try.
And when facing her own legal battles, Ghislaine Maxwell, in her 2025 proffer interview, tried to minimize her connection to Clinton.
She claimed they met only once at a White House historical event, and later became friendly through a mutual acquaintance.
Former Miami Mayor Philip Levane.
Right, but this minimization is a clear damage control effort, and it's easily contradicted by photographic evidence. She was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding.
So her attempt to drastically downplay the relationship years after the fact just shows how toxic the association remains, even for someone already convicted.
Exactly.
Now, turning to the Republican side, Donald Trump's narrative has been highly fluid. You have to contrast his early admiration from, 2002 or 2003.
When he called Epstein a terrific guy who likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
Right. Contrast that with his later hostility.
The shift is striking. His later hostility included claims that Epstein stole people who work for me from the Mar-a-Lago spa, which was likely a reference to Virginia Shrew.
And then later, he just tried to dismiss the whole saga as pretty boring stuff. I don't understand why it keeps going.
So it moves from open praise to defensive rivalry to outright dismissal.
But the most revealing document on the Trump connection is an email from Epstein himself. It suggests the friction wasn't just over a business deal or poaching staff.
No. Epstein wrote to a third party that Trump had asked him to resign from Mar-a-Lago, but crucially he added that Trump knew about the girls because he asked Ghislaine to stop.
If that email was accurate, it completely undermines the narrative that Trump was shocked by the 2008 plea deal or that he only severed ties over business friction.
It implies a much earlier direct awareness of the illicit activities. And this confirmed knowledge, whether it was real or just alleged by Epstein, is what gave Epstein such immense confidence.
There's that text thread from 2018. An unidentified person tries to reassure Epstein that the public attention is really about trying to take down Trump.
And Epstein's reply is the key to understanding his own perception of his power. He says, "Yes, thanks. It's wild because I am the one able to take him down."
He truly saw himself as the master puppeteer,
Holding the most dangerous strings over the most powerful person in the world at that time. That confidence is the ultimate reflection of the leverage he thought he had.
The story of how Jeffrey Epstein managed to escape serious federal trafficking charges in 2008. It's just a profound indictment of the legal system. It remains the core source of victim trauma.
And it all begins with the state-level investigation in Palm Beach County in 2006.
It was an absolute disaster.
It was. The grand jury case was handled by the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office, and the prosecutor, Lana Bello Havoc, is widely accused of essentially tanking her own case.
Through deliberate legal malpractice.
She didn't just question her witnesses, she cross-examined her own underage victims as if they were hostile defendants.
Right. She used their social media posts where, as teenagers, they were joking about being 18 or making a lot of money to completely attack their credibility.
That's the critical point. She flipped the script entirely. She used typical teenage exaggeration or, coping mechanisms to argue they were lying adult prostitutes. And that destroyed the credibility of the very victims the state was supposed to be protecting.
There was that one victim, just 15, who recounted being asked to massage Epstein. He then offered her more money if she allowed him to use a toy on her.
And the prosecutor asked her, "You understand that you, in effect, were committing prostitution yourself?"
It was an intentional strategy to ensure a conviction would be impossible.
That legal maneuver successfully destroyed the state's case. It resulted only in a single one-count solicitation charge that failed to even specify the involvement of minors.
Epstein was booked and immediately released on bond.
But fortunately, the Palm Beach police chief was enraged by the legal sabotage, and he intervened. He called the FBI.
And the subsequent federal investigation was far more effective.
Much more. They found 34 confirmed minors and compiled a robust 53-page federal indictment for sex trafficking.
This brings us to Alexander Ayosta,
the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, a George W. Bush appointee.
And instead of moving forward with that strong 53-page federal indictment, instead of pursuing serious trafficking charges, Ayosta offered Epstein a plea deal.
The infamous sweetheart deal, struck between 2008 and 2009, and the mechanics of it were just shocking.
Epstein pleaded guilty to just 2 state charges, solicitation and solicitation with a minor under 18, which allowed him to avoid the federal case entirely.
And here are the 3 points that really constitute the legal scandal. First, the deal was kept under seal.
Second, the victims were not notified of the deal, which was a direct, explicit violation of the Federal Crime Victims' Rights Act,
the CVRA. And third, and this is the most important for the ongoing investigations into his co-conspirators, the deal included a blanket non-prosecution agreement for Epstein and his co-conspirators.
to avoid any future federal sex trafficking charges.
Right. This effectively shielded Ghislaine Maxwell from federal prosecution in Florida. Epstein served only 13 months, often enjoying a highly criticized work release program, which Ayosta himself later called BS.
When Ayosta was appointed Secretary of Labor under Trump in 2016, the whole scandal reignited.
And when he was questioned, he defended the deal. He claimed he wanted to help the victims and put the world on notice that Epstein was a predator.
His argument was that a full federal trial would have been too risky because the trauma endured by the victims would have impacted their testimony.
Potentially leading to an acquittal, but the victims universally rejected this. It's so patronizing. They said that the secret non-prosecution deal traumatized them far more than a trial ever would have.
And the outrage, focusing on the violation of the CVRA and the obvious protection offered to Epstein and his co-conspirators, eventually forced Ayosta's resignation in 2019.
Even then, the political shield was partially intact. Trump accepted the resignation while praising him as a really great Secretary of Labor and a tremendous talent who went to Harvard.
This legal failure continues to ripple through the courts today.
It does. Ghislaine Maxwell is attempting to leverage that very 2009 non-prosecution agreement to appeal her subsequent federal conviction in the Southern District of New York.
Wait, hold on. She was convicted in New York years after the Florida deal. How can an old Florida agreement help her now?
That's where the legal complexity and, the clear-eyed defense strategy comes in. Her argument is that the feds are the feds, regardless of the district.
So because the non-prosecution agreement was federal.
She argues it should bind all federal prosecutors, including those in the Southern District of New York.
And if she were to win that argument, it would invalidate the fundamental jurisdiction of the New York conviction. The whole federal case against her could collapse.
It's a desperate but potentially powerful play stemming directly from the corruption of that original Florida deal.
And the irony is that she is relying on this agreement despite claiming in a 2025 proffer interview.
Right, which is a formal meeting where a defendant provides info in exchange for concessions.
She claimed in that she was never even investigated in Florida.
It's another contradictory statement, just another attempt to manage her public and legal narrative.
The financial angle of the Epstein operation is where you really start to understand the concept of leverage as currency.
Yeah. Let's start with Leon Black, the co-founder of Apollo Global Management. The revelation that Black paid Epstein over $150 million over the years is just staggering.
It's an astronomical figure.
Sources report payments often exceeding $40 million annually, supposedly for tax and estate planning services.
Which is wildly disproportionate to standard fees.
Especially for a financial genius like Leon Black, who's a billionaire, hiring Epstein, who was a college dropout felon.
Right. This wasn't tax advice. This was the cost of purchasing silence and management of extreme personal risk.
The leverage was the product, not the advice.
Exactly.
And the source material details a highly uncomfortable, even abusive relationship. Epstein frequently demanded his $40 million annual fee, threatening Black. I will immediately stop work if the payment is not received.
And, even more bizarrely, Epstein felt comfortable insulting Black's legitimate employees as a waste of space, and even used heinous slurs to describe Black's own children while discussing their estate planning.
And Black tolerated this. He tolerated this level of abuse and disrespect from a man he was supposedly just hiring for financial advice.
The clear implication is that Black needed Epstein for services that went far beyond the financial.
The source material alleges specific wrongdoing. Black reportedly sought Epstein's advice on how to pay millions to a former girlfriend to keep her quiet about an assault.
And another woman claimed Black assaulted her in Epstein's Manhattan townhouse.
So Epstein was the fixer. He was managing personal scandal that could destroy Black's reputation.
And Epstein was highly specific about his alleged value. He claimed he was working on Black's deal to purchase the $120 million The Scream painting, citing it as a major tax strategy.
Beyond the professional relationship, the financial connections extended to the network's victims. The documents show that Black wired hundreds of thousands of dollars to at least 3 women associated with Epstein.
Some of whom were identified as victims or associates in court filings.
And the financial cleanup efforts were huge. Black agreed to pay the U.S. Virgin Islands $62.5 million to be released from any potential claims from their 3-year investigation into the trafficking ring.
That settlement is undeniable proof of the financial cost of complicity.
And Black's contribution to the birthday book, a romantic poem, confirms his awareness of the network's nature, just cloaked in coded poetry.
5 decades L, or half century, by birds and by bucks, C's and M's, blonde, red, or brunette, spread out geographically with his net of fish.
The phrasing net of fish and the obscured acronyms C's and M's, which are widely interpreted as these purposefully obscured terms referring to victims or minors, show that Black was not blind to the predatory nature of Epstein's system.
He was a contributor to the celebration of that depravity.
And Leon Black is certainly not the only billionaire implicated. Leslie Wexner, the former owner of L Brands, which included Victoria's Secret, was a longtime client and friend.
His contribution to the birthday book is brief, but it's telling in its symbolism. He wrote, "Dear Jeffrey, I wanted to get you what you want, so here it is. Happy birthday, your friend Leslie."
And above the text is a hand drawing of a woman's chest. This link to the objectification of women becomes even more significant when you recall that Victoria's Secret events were locations where Epstein and Trump were photographed together.
It links the entire social web of finance, media, and politics.
On the international diplomatic front, Epstein's connections caused immediate political fallout, most notably for Peter Mandelson, a major UK Labour Party politician and former UK ambassador to the US.
He was forced to resign after his friendly emails and contributions to the birthday book were revealed.
Mandelson's book contribution reads like a bizarre love letter to a charismatic cult leader. He wrote about Epstein as an intelligent, sharp-witted man they call, quote, mysterious, parachuted into my life. He depicted himself waiting for Epstein's return and being left with interesting friends to entertain instead.
And the accompanying photo speaks volumes about the dynamic.
It shows Mandelson in a white bathrobe, listening intently to a fully clothed Epstein yapping away. It suggests a deeply subservient relationship despite Mandelson's own high political stature.
It highlights that even high-ranking global diplomats were actively placing themselves in vulnerable positions just to maintain proximity to Epstein.
The pattern is consistent across all these high-profile men. Epstein offered a combination of connections, financial solutions, and, crucially, discretion regarding highly damaging personal issues.
The most powerful individuals in the world were willing to endure enormous personal and professional risk just to remain in his orbit.
Which proves that access and leverage were his true global currency.
The narrative surrounding the release of the Epstein files became this volatile political tool in the U.S., particularly on the political right. And the chaos really began with Pam Bondi.
The U.S. Attorney General who made these explosive public claims about the documents.
Bondi publicly stated that the release of the entire Epstein file was a directive by President Trump, and she promised a deluge of information. A lot of flight logs, a lot of names.
She even promised tens of thousands of videos. Though she quickly had to clarify those were CSAM and wouldn't be released publicly. This created immense expectation within the political base.
But those promises failed to materialize.
No. The DOJ later contradicted her, announcing there were no more files to be released and categorically stating there was no Epstein list.
Arguing that further release would harm victims and disseminate child sexual abuse material.
This failure caused a massive internal contradiction among Trump's allies. The MAGA base had a full-blown meltdown, feeling lied to and betrayed. They turned on Bondi for either lying or for failing to expose the Democrats as they had been promised.
And Trump himself attempted to quell this revolt by pushing an even wilder conspiracy theory.
He posted on Truth Social, claiming the Epstein files were actually created and forged by Democrats, naming specific political opponents to hurt his administration.
Here is the core contradiction.
Yes, Trump allies had previously promised to release the files to expose the left, but when the files didn't deliver the expected political damage, Trump claimed the files were fabricated by the left in the first place.
This circular logic and blame shifting, it just underscores the chaotic, high-stakes political damage control strategy.
And this chaos is beneficial because it keeps the base confused and allows the administration to simultaneously promise transparency while denying the validity of any documents that might implicate their own allies.
Right. Adding to the conflicting statements, we had the FBI director, Kash Patel, weighing in.
In one instance, he appeared on a podcast claiming, "If I had a video of a guy on an island committing a felony, you would know about it," suggesting nothing serious existed.
Yet in the same breath, he admitted they were still reviewing all the available videos.
Those statements are fundamentally contradictory. They reflect the difficulty of controlling information in a case this sensitive.
Patel also initially fueled conspiracy theories about Epstein's death, right? He stated something's not adding up.
He did, but later he significantly shifted his position, telling Senator John Kennedy that he now believes Epstein self-exited at MDC Metropolitan.
That shift in narrative from a key official suggests internal pressure to close the public discussion surrounding Epstein's death.
And despite the denials and the constant blame shifting, the documents confirm that Epstein's connections to power remained intact until the very end.
Steve Bannon, Trump's former strategist, was very, very close with Epstein up until his death.
As evidenced by their 2018 emails. And Bannon's correspondence is incredibly disturbing. He messaged Epstein about a proposed documentary aimed at redeeming the unredeemable.
Telling Epstein directly, "You are not that racist who traffics in female children."
That is a profoundly damning statement because it explicitly acknowledges the nature of Epstein's alleged crimes while simultaneously trying to carve out an exception for him as a person.
It shows that even Bannon was engaged in managing Epstein's narrative, trying to save his reputation.
And likely protect the political connections that relied on him.
And when the May base turned on Trump over the files, we saw Ghislaine Maxwell engage in some highly convenient political spin.
In her 2025 proffer session, she stated that President Trump truly has no association with Epstein in any sort of sinister or nefarious way.
The timing of that is critical.
It is. Soon after making this statement exonerating the former president, she was moved from a high-security facility to a low-security prison.
It raises obvious questions about potential quid pro quo arrangements. It confirms that political leverage continued to operate even from behind bars.
At the end of the day, J.P. Morgan's actions illustrate Epstein's true currency. The bank paid out hundreds of millions of dollars to victims, not because they loved Epstein, but because he used his connections, like Bill Gates and other high-profile clients, to bring massive, high-value business to the bank.
His value as a professional connector exceeded his legal risk.
Until the public scandal became financially unsustainable.
And we returned to Epstein's own confidence in 2018. An unidentified person suggested the scandal would blow over because the focus was on taking down Trump.
And Epstein's confident response, "Yes, thanks. It's wild because I am the one able to take him down." He believed he held the ultimate political ace card.
So this deep dive has shown us the bizarre architecture of influence and depravity that Jeffrey Epstein constructed.
Yeah.
The sheer strangeness of the birthday book is a physical artifact, a scrapbook of shared secrets and complicity. It confirms that many in his orbit were not merely naive acquaintances.
Oh, absolutely not. And we've seen the tight, undeniable connections that spanned across both political aisles.
From the Clintons to the Trumps.
Right, leading to this rare, unifying sense of distrust among Americans demanding full transparency. We also analyzed the massive financial and professional costs of complicity for figures like Leon Black, who paid an unfathomable amount just to maintain access and silence.
Epstein was a parasite, but a professional one. He was loyal only to power, using leverage and secrecy as tools to maintain proximity to the world's wealthiest and most influential people.
It is deeply ironic that the very people who created and perpetuated the legal cover-up, Acosta, Mandelson, black-faced major professional or political consequences, even though they avoided criminal charges related to the trafficking ring itself.
The documents released show this constant, exhausting cycle of denial, deflection, and blame shifting.
Trump claiming the files were fabricated by the left, Acosta blaming the victims for his sweetheart deal, Maxwell offering political spin from prison.
Yet the material's existence proves that influential individuals were engaging with Epstein long after the warnings were flashing bright red.
So we have to ask a final question, something for you to mull over. If the cost of complicity is professional ruin, forced resignation, massive financial settlements, and the possibility of lifetime reputation damage, why?
Why do the same small group of powerful, influential people keep appearing in these documents? Why, despite all the clear risks and warnings, did they continue to engage with a known predator?
It raises an important question about the true nature of power in America. Is the drive for connections and status so addictive, so great, that even the most powerful men in the world are willing to risk everything, including their freedoms and legacies, just to remain in that exclusive, toxic circle?
It suggests that in these circles, access is the ultimate currency.
And morality is simply a cost you pay only when you are caught. That is a truly provocative thought to take away from this deep dive.
But believe me, this one entry is just the tip of the iceberg.
You know, as strange as that one page is, the entire book is a rabbit hole of unsettling stuff. What was supposed to be this fun tribute feels a lot more like a trophy case, just filled with red flags that suggest something much, much darker was going on inside Epstein's network.
So this book was a personal project by Ghislaine Maxwell. Back in 2003, she reached out to Epstein's whole circle of powerful friends. We're talking billionaires, politicians, famous scientists, and she asked them to contribute something. She then compiled all of it into this scrapbook. And you have to remember, this was all happening during the exact time frame when many, many victims say their abuse was at its absolute peak.
Just get a load of some of the contents. There are entire chapters titled Children and Girlfriends. I mean, really? There are strange photos, like one of Epstein just sitting in a bathtub with the caption, "Waiting for my foot massage." There's a story in there detailing a plan called Rob and Kill, and it's just filled with crude sexual stories and all these inside jokes that feel like they're written in some kind of code. Now, this is a direct quote from that Rob and Kill section. It's written like it's supposed to be a joke, a funny story about some get-rich-quick scheme. But when you read lines like this, especially paired with a redacted name, it is really hard to see the humor. It feels chillingly real. And it makes you ask a very, very important question.
Right? Why would so many prominent, powerful people contribute to something so strange and filled with these dark, creepy references? Was it some shared culture of impunity where they all just felt completely untouchable? Or, and this is worse, was it some kind of blackmail, a way to bind the whole group together with shared, documented secrets? And more importantly, how did this entire network operate so openly for so long? The answer, in large part, comes down to a single legal deal.
Yep, this is the story of the infamous 2008 non-prosecution agreement. This was a deal so secretive and so unbelievably lenient that it basically shielded Epstein and his entire network from any serious federal charges for over a decade. So here's how it all went down. After local police in Florida built a pretty solid case, the state prosecutor essentially tanked it in front of a grand jury. So the FBI steps in and builds this massive 53-page federal indictment. But, and this is the crazy part, instead of actually prosecuting, the U.S. attorney at the time, Alexander Acosta, secretly negotiated this deal with Epstein's lawyers. The victims, they were never even told. Epstein just pleaded guilty to a couple minor state charges, and everyone involved got immunity from federal prosecution. And years later, this exact deal would force Acosta to resign as Trump's Secretary of Labor.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It is absolutely staggering. On one side, you have federal sex trafficking charges that could have meant life in prison. On the other side, you have what he actually got, a plea to solicitation, only 13 months in county jail, with work release 6 days a week, mind you, and, this is the kicker, a blanket of immunity for all of his co-conspirators. It was a stunningly effective get-out-of-jail-free card for everyone.
And this was Acosta's defense in 2019. He claimed the deal was necessary just to guarantee some jail time, arguing that a trial would have been a roll of the dice. But victims and legal experts, they called it a complete and total betrayal. They said it protected a predator and his powerful friends, and it led to a political firestorm that is still raging today.
Because this is not a simple left versus right story, not even close. The connections to Epstein cross party lines, which has created this chaotic, contradictory mess, as the public just tries to get answers about who knew what and when.
Are there more files? Is there a secret list of clients? The answers you get really depend entirely on who you ask and when you ask them. Official statements have just been this whirlwind of confusion and contradiction.
So, for example, at one point, former Attorney General Pam Bondi made this absolutely bombshell claim. She told reporters that President Trump had told her to review the complete Epstein files so they could be released to the public. Her supporters were ecstatic. The files were finally coming.
But then, almost immediately, the Department of Justice released this statement, which completely contradicted her. No list, no more files. So, which is it? Did the files exist on her desk or not? This kind of back and forth has fueled massive speculation, especially because the powerful people connected to this case, well, they come from both sides of the aisle.
And this is really just scratching the surface. You've got Republicans like Donald Trump and Alexander Acosta, the man who gave Epstein that sweetheart deal, and then you have Democrats like Bill Clinton, who was a frequent flyer on Epstein's plane, and Kathy Rumler, a former Obama White House counsel who was exchanging friendly emails with Epstein years after his conviction. The network is vast, and it is absolutely bipartisan.
So when you have powerful figures from both political parties caught in this web, and you have official government statements that directly contradict each other, it really raises a fundamental and pretty disturbing question. Is there any real incentive for the full, unvarnished truth to ever see the light of day? Or are some secrets simply too protected to ever be told?
Thank you for watching till the end. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an update. Stay tuned as we continue to uncover the darkest mysteries and shocking truths from around the world. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.